Hello everybody, here's Dr. Puppet and welcome to the new edition of the Puppet's Dojo. Today I'm very excited to announce you that we have a coach again to talk about some League of Legends, about Team XL, Team UK, and I'm very happy that we got to talk with Josh. And you're gonna see in a bit the results, and it was a very nice conversation. Anyways, I want to let you know, if you want to support the channel, make sure to subscribe, to share this video, to like it, and leave questions and guests you want to see in the future in the comment section. Also, if you want more content and support me and the work I'm doing, there's a Patreon link. There will be VODs coming up of analysis I did in preparation for this episode, so they will be only available for patrons from $3 and plus. And there will be a lot more coming soon. We're gonna try to figure out things step by step. So if you wanna check it out, the extra content I'm providing, check out there. So thank you very much and enjoy this episode. Bye bye. Alright, so everybody, welcome to the new Puppets Dojo, and welcome for tuning in as always on this Tuesday night. Today I'm very glad that I can introduce you to one of the newer faces to the LEC, and it's Josh, also known as Furndog, the coach from XO Esports. Like, it's XO or XO Esports? Only XO?
Yeah, I mean, XL is fine, but XL Esports also known as too, yeah.
Yeah, alright. So, alright, there was a bit questioning there, but alright. But glad that we got this out of the way, because yeah, it's been a very good time for you actually already in the LEC. It's been very exciting to watch you guys grow. I know it was a very last minute thing. Like, it felt very last minute to us from the outside since you got in, and you've been showing up very well actually. So how are you doing today? Like, how is practice going? How is everything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy. We're, like you said, it's definitely like a growth project. It's getting there week after week, and part of that growth is experiencing the ups and downs that we have, and we're going through some really good games, then we're going through some really not so good games, but it's all part of the team growing. And as you said, us getting into the LEC was very last minute, so there's a lot of things to get in place in a short period of time, including the roster and the facilities and the staff. So there's a lot we had to do in this short time, but it's definitely moving in the right direction for sure.
When did you join the process, Josh?
What, the process of XL getting into the LEC?
Yeah. Like, because I know you were already at XL a while before that as well.
Yeah.
So when did you first start with XO, and when did you get involved in the ELC process of building the team?
So me joining XL initially was way back when, in like 2016, in the UK League, when there was no paid players or no paid coaches or anything in the UK scene. I started working with them then. So yeah, and since that I kind of went away and did stints at different teams, but I've always kind of found myself back at XL. But this time I've been at XL since January 20. But just a little bit before January 2018, so like just over like 14 months or something now. But I was with XL for the whole process of them wanting to get into the LEC, and part of writing the application, and all the way up to where we are now.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, when did you start building the roster actually? Because I guess it was supposed to be a different team, and then suddenly there happened something, and then I think they got back to you guys at XL to join the LEC. When did you know that you have to build a team for the LEC?
About 24 hours before the announcement went public.
Oh boy!
So. Yeah, we were planning. I mean, the LEC has been in the pipeline for a long time, but it was not that we were like in. So we were planning on just continuing with our ERL, like building on our ERL team and being ready for the next UK split. And then we get the confirmation, we get the go ahead, and it's like, right guys, let's build an LEC team. And it was rough. It was like it's last minute, right? Because everything happened so quickly, and we were nowhere near as prepared as any other team, but it was kind of impossible to be. So we kind of identified key targets to us and had to go after them straight away, basically.
So was this one of the reasons that you you had still the UK roster, right? So it wasn't changed. So basically, you just built a second roster on top of that. And,
kind of, yeah.
Did you work there? Because I can imagine you had 1 or 2 weeks to actually get a roster.
Yeah.
Until the deadline.
We basically had the UK roster in place anyway, but their contracts were running out kind of the end of last year. We had a few people in mind from that roster that we wanted to keep irrelevant of the kind of the project that we got into. If it was LEC, then we were always going to go with this 10-man roster idea.
Yeah.
I know all the LEC teams have to have academies, but my view on what academy is and what it kind of should be is slightly different to some of the LEC teams do it. So, but there was some potential kind of talents that we already had signed that are now in the academy team, kind of Taxa and Sendo primarily, were the two that were working with us last year that stayed on XL. But yeah, it was. These are our targets. This is the list we've got. This is the kind of budget we're working with, and these are the players we want to sign. And we had to just get to it straight away and kind of get a pitch together so that we could kind of sell our idea and my coaching philosophy and XL's the philosophy of XL to the players that we were trying to sign in such a short time. Yeah.
Can you tell a bit more about this kind of pitching that you went through? Because this sounds for me a very risky decision sometimes. That can do super well or backfire because players might be still want to try it out, get a scrim session with the rest of the team and just get a grasp of you guys can work together. How did you approach that situation as a coach yourself? Because from my experience as a coach, one of the things that you always prefer to is having a scrim session with the player you want, right? This would be always the optimum. But I guess you didn't have the time, the situation. So how did you prepare personally for that?
We had very short limited time, and obviously with all the LEC players, all the talent that's going around, everybody's fighting for these players. Yeah. So we kind of had to get a pitch together that kind of sells XL towards their development and what we think that they believe in and where they want a home for them to be. Yeah. But also we didn't go through the kind of scrim process of we want to try them out in scrims or whatever. For me, it's much more important that we players with the right attitude and the right kind of the view that we have here, because I've seen all of the players that we were going to pick up or we were potentially picking up playing significant amount of competitive games over their past rosters or whatever. So I knew all the players that we were looking at had the potential to be the right targets for us. It was more kind of assessing their behavior traits, their personality traits, getting deep down to it with kind of more in-depth interviews that would allow me to kind of make a judgment decision on who we thought was best for the roster.
All right. Did you do it all by yourself, or how many people were actually helping you during this process?
So I was working closely with our director of esports, Joel, and alongside one of the other coaches who's our performance coach, John, at the time, who worked with me last year on XL as well, alongside kind of talking to those higher up at XL about what they kind of viewed and their vision. But a lot of the performance side of it is based on kind of my philosophy that I've put into the LEC application the whole way through, and they've really entrusted me in kind of my ability and me knowing what we really want and what we kind of want for this project moving forward. All
right. So how has it been to be the past few weeks already in the LEC? How has it been working out for you guys?
I think it's been good. I think, like I said before, there's some real ups and downs in terms of performance. I think we've got a really good group of guys here as the team that make the team. We've got some like a really good kind of close connection very quickly as a team. Everyone's super comfortable with each other. Everybody's very open with each other, which I think are really good foundations for teams to kind of fix any issues that we come across along the way, like all teams have. But it's moving in the right direction. It's definitely going to take some time, and no one was under kind of any misconceptions that this would be like we're going to click our fingers and we're going to hit top 4 team or anything like this, and that's never been expected. But it's more about how can we build for the best future for Excel, and how can we put the kind of foundations in place and the building blocks in place that over the next kind of 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, however long it may be, turn this team into what can be a real contender in the future. So
you've definitely focused on the long-term decision making, and in my opinion, like for now, you are the only team that are clearly saying we have a 10-man roster. Like the other teams are still like more LEC Academy / regional league based. They're not yet in the 10-man system because they're all figuring out the other things on the side. And you are technically the only one right now saying like, yeah, we have a 10-man roster. And today you guys announced that you're fielding a different mid laner coming to the next week. What can you tell us about that decision?
So, as with all our kind of roster decisions, they're going to be based on what we believe is best for the team's LEC performance. So that's the kind of overall like prophecy in it, with the academy guys technically working day in, day out alongside with our guys as well. They do a lot kind of internal trainings and things, but to be in a position where they're showcasing their development to a point where they can make it onto the LEC stage. And equally, it gives the guys that are currently on the LEC stage some real competition. Like they're being pushed each day because there's really hungry rookies behind them that are wanting those LEC spots. So it kind of entices the LEC players to keep working harder, but also makes the academy players really know within Excel that they're going to get a chance in the LEC stage if they showcase their talent. And Special's the first one that's really shone through like that, where he's been performing day in, day out really, really well for the academy, and has really kind of staked his claim for a place to start this week. So he's going to get his chance to showcase what he can do.
I mean, like, he's also a very experienced player already at this point. Like, he played like for 3-4 years already in the regional leagues. Does it change like the team dynamic that complete? Like that, is that so much different with a different player, or are you guys like really that close together that you would say like we are already at a spot where the team identity would not change as much if we change a player, but would definitely, let's say, bring some new flavor to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very dependent on the player. Some players have a massive role within the comms or in that kind of areas, where actually removing that changes the dynamic of in-game kind of structure completely. But some players, it's more just about the technical skills that they bring to the team. And vice versa. So I think that's very dependent on the players. But I think within Excel, what we're trying to do in the players' minds is build a very much squad mentality, like traditional sports, like you have in kind of football, where you don't just only have 11 players that play each week. You have 11 players who play, and then you have another like 15 who are actually staking their claim to try and start next week. But even when they're not playing, they're very much supporting that team that they play for, and it's not like we've got two teams and the players are trying to push each other out or anything like this. It's like they're helping each other develop by pushing each other on each day. And as a result, we will start with whoever we think could kind of give XL the best chance of winning each week. But internally, it doesn't. We're trying to create a situation where it's not like creating any issues between any players, but more just a squad growth.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, and growth is a very good word to talk about because one of the things that surprised me the most about you guys as a team is that you definitely grew extremely fast for these 4 past weeks. And I saw like in EXO a potential team by the end of Split, right? I didn't see like you guys being that strong from the start, and like you develop with the time and be one strong contender by the end of the Split, right? Those were my expectations. And when I saw you guys like play in the first week and then in the second week, like, all right, damn, what happened this week? Like, this is much faster development than I expected. Like, so far for me, EXO's a solid team already, and this is like for me impressive for a new team. So how many people do you have in the coaching staff, and how is the whole environment coming to this week that you could develop, or let's say improve that fast in that short amount of time?
So I think, we've got a really good coaching staff here. There's myself as head coach. We have Judge as our strategic coach, Peter or Unlimited as our academy coach, and John, who formerly worked with me at Excel, as our performance coach, who works on all kind of out of game aspects of the team. But I mean, for me, it's more about the players' mentality to development rather than like the coaching staff necessarily. We like give room for the players to grow, and we facilitate their growth by kind of incurring the right learning environment and schedule. But really we're all about creating this situation where can best allow them to flourish, more so than like us technically learn them to grow. I think the thing that's interesting about our team is that none of our players have ever played together before. So I think every other roster in LEC has probably got players that played together either last split or previous splits together. So we basically had 5 players that have never played together before we started. And again, we started quite kind of late in comparison to some of the other teams in our preseason of things, because we hadn't got the roster together quite as quick as the other teams. So I think our development has been really quick, and I think it's more of a testament to the players' desire and drive and motivation to actually be the best they can be as quickly as possible. That is the key reason for that.
So, what did you say was the most key aspect so far for this improvement? Like, is there anything specific that you feel helps the guys improve that quickly, besides that desire to improve?
I think it's I'm not sure about what kind of one key thing. I think we have got a good balance of all the things that we believe the players need to be good at. So we've had a real big focus on their life, as well as just in game. So like sleep schedules and the food they eat, and these types of things that start to kind of improve their quality of life and the quality of the way they're thinking about being an athlete, so to speak, rather than just like playing games all day. Because it's moving much more into that world where we're like a professional, like more like traditional sports in a professional kind of environment now, and not we're having fun playing games. But then also the strategic staff have worked very closely with the team on the development of the strategy. Obviously, we've got a mixture of kind of rookie players and more experienced talent in the team that have helped the rookies grow very quickly and kind of fit into their place in the team and their role. So, I think that, alongside the balance of what we're working on and working constantly to kind of achieve our goals, is where we're at in terms of why we're kind of growing.
One of the things that I think is interesting that you mentioned, and as I see as difficulty coming on to this year, it's not that only like you guys obviously are staying in the UK and coming over every weekend to play, but as well like Origen is doing the same, but in Denmark, right? And one of the things like that Nuke said in an interview to the Shot Caller was about like the typical burnout that you get if you're not used to the kind of schedule, like that you have a certain practice time and then you're basically traveling 1 day a week because you have to get to the LEC and then you have to travel back and all stuff like that you have to coordinate around that. How are you guys like facilitating the players so they can maximize their practice time as well as be as comfortable as possible?
Yeah, so I mean, this was something we thought about quite extensively at the start of the split. Like before we started, we haven't actually done it as much as we were planning to, for various reasons. So we're based a bit more in Berlin than we were, but we have facilities at both ends. But we're based more in Berlin now than we are in the UK. But again, I think that will change more as we come into summer split, where we'll be based probably more in the UK and less in Berlin. But again, that's dependent on how things go. But I mean, for me, it's organization and ensuring that the players are not like the flight is not just a wasted time. So we would have tasks that, like when we're on the flight, that's like an actual learning task that the players can do for maybe the flight's only about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. So it's not like a really long flight or anything like this, but just a little something to keep their mind occupied, thinking about their actual goals that they're working on at the moment, thinking about kind of taking notes on their learning and things like this. So there's stuff that, like having a set task, not making it kind of too tedious and boring, but a bit of fun, a bit of something to kind of occupy their time with, and then just get straight back into training. It's not reducing our training time at all, so we're managing to get flights that work around that. And we're doing everything we can to kind of reduce the amount of time waiting around either end. So like getting through security as fast as possible with like fast track passes and things like this, to try and reduce any kind of just hanging around, kind of feeling like we're wasting any valuable time.
Yeah, when I was speaking with Kasing in week 1, he gave me an interview, and he explained one thing when I asked about the same question is, first, that he thinks in solo queue time. So when he was scared about like the whole flight thing, he counted how many solo queues he would not play because of the flights. And then he went on to talk about like that he actually valued now this time because he has time to read. And one of the things that I remember, like over the whole years and even the years I even coached myself, is that you highly prioritize so much about like studying the game and training the game that you forget to train outside the game as well.
For sure.
So are you guys doing any kind of like using this time specifically? Okay, let's talk about something else, right? Let's move on. Let's improve, or let's say a kind of life coaching aspect of the training. How do you approach that? Like, do you give them not only tasks to do, think about this certain scenario in game, or do you give them literally books to read, or how are you doing this?
I mean, there's lots of things that we're working on in and out of our game, really. I mean, we're working on things like we're very interested in the players understanding more about themselves and the way they work. So understanding how they learn best, understanding how their personalities affect the way they learn best, understanding how sleep affects the way they learn. Understanding how exercise affects the way they learn. So kind of we've been up an education base for the players that allows them to understand more than just about how they work within the game, but much more about how they work in general to learn. Kind of my background is much more in initially kind of in teaching and coaching. So kind of my specialities lie, or my skill set primarily lies in the study of learning, so more so. So we've been working a lot on that, and players are kind of tracking their sleep. They understand much more about sleep and things like this because it's so valuable to, and something that's done so poorly in my experience in esports in general. But again, that's just an example of the types of things that the players are studying more and reading up about and reading books on that kind of adds to the education base that they've got to really take into their development.
What did you do before esports, actually?
Well, a few things. I basically studied at university as a primary school teacher. But prior to that, I'd done a lot of traditional sports coaching. I coached a lot of football. Then I went into teaching and sports science. I'd done a bit of both. Then I went into that. Then I basically did some teaching jobs, and then went into esports and coaching leagues.
So when did this happen? When did the esports bug bite you?
Yeah.
When exactly?
Oh, sorry. When did I first start coaching? 2015. Damn. I think I first started coaching just kind of very small scale UK teams.
What did you work?
Flip my way around a little bit, and
at the time, because I remember, because this was like, I think I remember you from coaching one of those teams, because this was the time I actually started myself, and like in a small EU area where like everybody coached and worked with everyone because teams couldn't stay longer together than 1 or 2 weeks. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Where did you start there?
Why did I start actually coaching league?
Yeah, and where?
I started with just a very small organization in the UK. I think it was called GIM, and then they turned into a team called Rift. Then I went on to a team called TCA in the UK, which led me kind of to XL, but very much when XL just got in as an organization, had just got into League of Legends, and they picked up like just a roster of friends really that were all kind of like mid diamond to low diamond. Really hadn't done anything in League before. We just wanted to kind of understand a bit more about the game and its ecosystem and how it worked. So I worked with them for a while. We started to grow the roster. We made it kind of top 3 in the UK. Then I got offers from LVP in Spain and went off to coach G2 Vodafone in Spain. Did a stint there. Then with Alex, who's our current head analyst, he was the director of esports back then at G2 Vodafone. So I've kind of picked up people that I've worked with along the way who I really value their work and their opinion. And
Sendo probably, I guess.
Yeah, Sendo as well. Yeah, exactly. And then I went off to Besiktas, did a little stint in Turkey, just tried to feel my feet in the kind of the environment in the more kind of like professional or paid like professional esports coaching as opposed to voluntary. And then I came back to XL, spent all of last year there growing the team and growing the kind of environment to the point where we are today, where I've been in a really fortunate situation to bring in a lot of people who I've worked with along that kind of journey so far, who I think are just great at their job. And we've got analysts who I've worked with before, we've got coaches who I've worked with before from different teams, and kind of brought them all together and are now in this situation where XL is what it is today.
What is your favorite esports memory then?
I mean, getting into the LEC was a huge one, and it took a long time to sink in. But because it was so rushed, it never really did sink in until like we're stood on that stage, week 1, ready to play our first game, and we get our first win versus Rogue. So, of course, that was huge. I think sentimental one for me was winning the UK Premiership with XL, because they'd never won anything before in League, and getting that felt like a bit of a milestone for them in League, and I think committed them to League of Legends for the long term, and hence the LEC application came about off the back of that, and yeah, the kind of the rest is history really, but it ended up in us being here.
All right, so where do you see this XL lineup by the end of the split?
I think for me right now, one, it's about getting the processes right for the future, but also about us improving week on week and doing everything, making sure every single week is better than the last week. So that's kind of the short-term goal. Where I want us to push for playoffs. I think that's quite achievable right now, but some of the teams who are like below us or whatever are starting to kind of take shape. I think Origen is starting to look a bit better. Fnatic in some respects might find their feet a bit more. But I have full faith in this roster that we can make playoffs if we really put the work in, which would be above and beyond the expectations of pretty much everyone who said anything about us before the split started. So, and I think there's a lot more people now that believe that that's actually possible for XL that are not within XL than did before they'd seen us play at all. For me, that's where I want to be, and then push on even more in summer after we've kind of ironed out some of the creases of our first split.
All right, that's actually that's pretty down to earth. Actually, pretty honest goal that you have there. I think you guys have also a partnership with a rugby team, a local. Was it rugby? Yeah. Rugby team.
It's Twickenham Stadium more so than any particular team. Twickenham Stadium's the national stadium of rugby in the UK. So it's where England's national team play all their home games basically.
So how does this work exactly? Like, what is this partnership all about? How are you implementing this with XL?
So mainly it provides us a great facility to base the foundations of XL's development. So it provides us with a space where we've set up our training facility for all 10 players and all of the staff. It provides us with kind of media area to do content and media things. It provides us with the facilities to house the players and the players to have a great space to live in. Food facilities, gym facilities, the various facilities that we can use just is in the day-to-day schedules and part of the development of the team that we couldn't get in Berlin, and especially not in the short notice that we had of getting into the LEC. It was the best deal that we could get that would really set us going, like moving forward for the future, and a foundation to work off, really.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Did you guys approach them, or like how did this come to happen actually?
Yeah, so I mean, this isn't really my area of expertise. This is more kind of Kieran, who you've seen kind of on lots of the things about Excel, who's our managing director. He is just constantly in talks with kind of sponsors and and all these types of people about deals that we can do that can either better solidify Excel's future or give us better environment to be able to work in and develop in. And this was one of them. There was a connection, there was a link there. With us being like the UK brand, obviously Twickenham's a massive thing in the UK, and there was a lot of chats there, a lot of discussions that kind of led to a partnership.
That sounds great. Like, sounds also very, very very spontaneous kind of thing, which probably is a very great story. And moving forward. Anyway, so let's get back and talk about League of Legends, because you actually have two very important matches this coming week. First, you're playing Origen, as I mentioned, is a rising up team, and the second one you're playing against is Splice, which when we look at the standings would be two very important wins, as they're both ahead of you guys. How do you see like coming into this week? Do you feel like Axel will be able to beat them? How strong do you feel are Origen and Splice right now in the league?
I think both teams are actually doing really well. I think Origen stepped it up last week and showed a different side to Origen to what you'd seen previous. I saw last week was more like the Origen I expected to see for most of the split. I know Nuke did say about the travel and things, kind of he felt that was allowing them to struggle. But I think on paper and as time goes by, I think Origen will find their feet more and just get better and better. They've got a really strong team. Does that mean we can't beat them? Absolutely not. I think we. This is the first team that I've ever really coached and been on where I truly believe that we can actually take game off literally anyone in the league. But then also sometimes, just due to the inconsistency that we sometimes show, we can actually struggle against any team as well. So, but I truly think we can beat both Splice and Origen. Both will be tough games. Both are really good teams who have got clear kind of identities and especially Splice, they're very known for their kind of getting into the late game and winning out the game in these later stages. So, but we'll have strategies and we'll kind of be prepared for both and be ready to give them real games to actually try and really push for these wins. So these wins are really important for us for if we actually want to make these playoffs.
Will you guys be able to switch between game days, the players, like? Or do you have to commit to a player decision coming to the week?
Technically, I believe the ruling is that we have to submit our roster for the Saturday at the end of Friday. So we could technically switch, yes. All
right. So you're definitely counting on maybe, like, in terms of strategy, also being able to change things up in case needed.
Yeah, it's a possibility. Yeah.
All right. So, looking at the whole LEC teams right now, who do you feel like will be coming out on top right now? Like, do you feel like there's any team that will beat finally G2? Or do you think like G2 will steamroll all through the playoffs with a perfect score?
I think G2 are just above and beyond at the moment. I think that they shouldn't I hope they don't just team for everything, because I think it makes a little bit not quite so interesting viewing for the public. I hope at least people push them. I think we did a really good job of that when we did face them. We didn't take the win, but I think we put on a really good to actually push them further than they'd been pushed before, which they definitely weren't expecting. I think Schalke are really well. I mean, from what I've seen of Schalke, they did lose this week to Origen, which was again a surprising one. But when I've watched Schalke's games, I think they're very, very strong all round, and especially when they get a lead, they're very, very strong to close out. And then then below that is kind of, for me, Vitality, who are the next, but they've just got kind of a previous identity from kind of 2018 that's been brought across, that they're still using, but with a very smart or more careful jungler in Mowgli that makes more calculated plays, I think. So I think Vitality is kind of next on the list, but for me, like G2 and then Schalke is how I feel like the kind of tiers the teams are right now.
Yeah, fair. What do you have to say about Fnatic though? Because like you just faced them, and they're obviously having a rough time right now, but they played like they're starting to get a little bit better and start like to less mistakes in the beginning, and even though in my opinion like you would be able to beat them in the matchup, you still sadly lost to them. What can you tell us about what happened in this matchup?
I mean, I think I think we struggled a bit versus Fnatic, and I think some of it was down to kind of the way we were set up to play didn't really match how I think we play best. So some of that's on me. I think their draft was much better in that game than some of the other drafts that I've seen them do in other games, and we struggled to really find the openings that we wanted to get a foothold in the game and take control of the game. And I think whichever team did that in that game was really set up for victory, and they just did that better than us on the day. But I think I think they've got a very different read to a lot of other teams on what's good right now and what's not good right now, and that's why you're seeing some of these kind of weird, quirky drafts come out where maybe they're just searching for comfort because they're so uncomfortable right now as a team or whatever, where like Nemesis has reverted to like playing the Kassadin versus the LeBlanc, because maybe that's just the way he's most comfortable, so that they're reverting to that and hoping that works for them rather than like searching for the best champ for the occasion. Of course. But I'm really not sure. I think while these drafts maybe make them a little bit more comfortable, it's really putting them kind of it's really making it hard for them to find chances to win the games. And there's two occasions in the last 2 weeks where I think that's really been the case, but I think in the end they'll get there. They just need to realize that Nemesis is not Caps and he's just a very different type of player, but understand what actually his strengths are, and start to utilize him in the way that's best. I think with rookies there's always this thing where like they come in and they often just role play for quite a while, where they don't really find their footing in the team. They're just like, I'll just sit here and do what I'm told rather than play League of Legends the way I know how. The ones that you see really come in and do super well are the ones where they immediately find their footing with their own personality and their own play style, and they implement it onto the team they're on, and they're allowed to implement it onto the team that they're on, and the team just utilizes that as a tool, rather than like trying to make this player be a different player or fit into a different mold than what that player actually is kind of strengths like.
Yeah, I see. And do you feel like, especially in that matchup, that this was one of the games that they actually understood right what to do with their draft, like what to do with their team setup, and that's why they actually showed up stronger than in other games against you guys? Yeah,
for sure.
All right. Talking about players and the young players, you guys brought back an experienced player that obviously has won some titles already in you, and has been showing off really well. How has it been to have Expect on the team?
Expect is just a great guy to have around. He's played versus the top players in the world from all different regions, won titles everywhere he's been, really. Been to MSI finals, won multiple LCS titles. So within that, he brings a wealth of experience. I think lots of people questioned him last year on like why are people not picking him up? There must be issues with him. He must not be very good anymore, or must be washed up, or whatever they want to call it. And I think again he's come into our roster, and he's shown that he's got huge carry potential. He is he can hold his own versus anyone in Europe, in my opinion. People identified Vitality's key strengths as like Cabashard and how much of a carry player he was. In that game we gave Cabashard got Expects playing Scion, and they had about a 2 to 3k gold lead just by himself over Cabashard in that game when we were playing to the opposite side of the map. So I think that tells in itself like how strong Daehan is, or Expect is as a player, and he's also such a valuable asset to the team kind of social, where he's such a social guy who really interacts with the team. He helps the rookies kind of feel really comfortable. He's super comfortable on stage and doesn't suffer from kind of any of the nerves or let the kind of situation get to him, and is just super composed and calculated in the team. So very reliable player who we can kind of who I feel versus any team that we're not going to be outclassed in top lane.
Yeah, is he one of the main shot callers with Kassim?
He has a big impact on especially his role and what he can do within the game. But our kind of comm system is very dynamic. It's not like one person just leads the whole thing. It's much more everybody has their roles and responsibilities within that, and it's more about sticking to that than it is to rely on one particular person to carry the team through the whole game in comms.
I understand. Like, can you talk a bit more about this? Like, how you're structuring like the team for shot calling? Like, do you have a personal system, or it's just like, hey, you're playing this role, this should be your responsibilities that you add to the team, or how is your approach there?
Yeah, so I mean, initially it was more about like just let this flow rather than putting a rigid kind of formula in. Just let this flow and see. Let's read into a little bit of what everyone's good at, what everyone understands about the game, what people don't quite understand about the game from their previous experiences, and then that tends to lead towards like a natural formula. And then it's just ensuring that we get all the comms, like all the things that we need in comms consistently, and then who is assigned the responsibilities of that, and then you start to kind of structure it a little bit more to the point where there's people responsible for different parts of the game. There's people responsible for kind of lane assignments, or just talking about their own status updates, calling targets and team fights. Kasing is obviously, as is public knowledge, that he's a shot caller in himself, so he makes a lot of the team macro decisions. But Cage was very, very good in the early game at talking about what he wants to do and how he wants to get the team ahead, and where he wants to play around and what lanes he wants to play for. So that's kind of the system, really. It's very dynamic. It's not very rigid, but there are roles and responsibilities that everyone has that they have to adhere to.
I see. Is there any of the younger players, like the newer guys, that had shown like already very young, like a lot of potential to be vocal on the team? Because sometimes it happens that let's say the newer players to the stage don't feel comfortable talking as much and focus a lot more on themselves. Is there anyone that stood out of the rest in this regard, like that he adapted faster than expected?
I think everyone's starting to find their footing. I think Jeskla was a bit like what you said at the start, where he's in a position where he's like just taking a step back from it and just being told what to do. Whereas as a carrier in the long run, is more slotting into this role of, I am the carry, this is what I need to carry, you need to give it to me, and then I'll be able to carry the game in these late game team fights and such. So that's like what we're working towards. I think in the academy guys, there's definitely Mystiques is someone who is very, very vocal, and I think one day when he gets his shot in the LEC or whatever, will be someone who is a rookie but is actually very vocal in these situations. But again, being on stage in the LEC is very, very different to playing on the academy. So time will tell on that. But yeah.
Did you actually needed to adapt yourself to the stage, like, or was it a very natural obstacle for you?
I've had to adapt the way I do things. My role has changed this year from last year. Last year, I was working very close, like it was me and the players pretty much. Whereas now I'm working with a team of staff as well. So I'm in charge of a lot more kind of above board decisions, so to speak. So things are different, and I've definitely taken some time to adapt into this role. I don't think it's something that's quite as natural to me as what I was doing, because I'd done what I was doing before for kind of 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And then this was definitely new. But being on the stage, I mean, didn't really affect me much. It sank in more that XL's actually made it here, which is not something that anyone ever thought would actually happen until it actually happened. So, but it's something I really enjoy and just love doing each week, and get to work with my own org that I kind of grew up with, so to speak, and put their trust in me to be here. So
this is great. Is there one thing that in the past 4 weeks that you wish you knew before the LEC started?
One thing I wish I knew, I'm not sure really. I think just generally XL and myself being more organized coming into the whole process would have helped a lot. Having a bit more time to prepare overall, because obviously from getting into the LEC, everything was focused around like getting the roster together, getting the facilities together, getting the staff that we wanted together, and I had very little time to think about like what my role was and what my responsibilities were, and how I was going to kind of ensure I got those right each day and each week, and what our schedule, how good our schedule would be, and things like this, and all that's come into place. But the issue with it is because we had such little time, it's coming into place as the split progresses, not before the split, and then we can just use it. So we're slowly getting there with more and more structure. But I think, if anything, that I wish I knew, I just wish we had a bit more time to initially prepare for everything that we need to do to be in the best possible situation. But again, it's just going to come with time. That's
fair. But I mean, like, this is normal. I guess every new org is going through the same situation, wishing there was more time to get everything sorted out.
For sure.
And that's still pretty good. Like, it seems to me that you're far more organized, as you are telling right now. So the outside perspective seems very, very positive, at least. So that's pretty cool, actually. So chat, if there's anyone in the chat with still one question, now it's the time to type them in. So we can still ask Josh about anything. Otherwise, I actually have some kind of total random and different questions to finish off the interview. Because, like, you know, we talk about League of Legends, we talk about esports, we talk about the LEC a lot, but we never get to know the important stuff, like what's your favorite food, for example, Josh?
Favorite food? I guess if I had to say favorite food, it would probably be like a steak. Steak and chips in the UK is like a massive deal, and being in Berlin a lot and stuff, I haven't had so much lately. So yeah, a really good steak.
Are the rumors true that you eat steaks well done in UK?
Some people prefer, me actually, I prefer like a medium rare steak. Okay. Much more tender, but yeah, some people do actually. So
I still don't understand how you can eat that, but
yeah, me neither actually.
Yeah. so that's great. What's your favorite beverage then?
Oh, favorite beverage. Again, back in the UK, cider is a big, a nice drink, especially on a summer's sunny day, which we don't get many of in the UK. For anyone who's spent any time there, it's normally raining a lot, even in the summer. But when it is sunny, to sit out in the garden with a nice cider is always lovely.
Well, when it's not raining, of course, right?
Yeah, when it's not raining. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I can imagine Josh with an umbrella, with his
cider. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Favorite movie?
Ooh. Favorite movie? There's so many, but none that I consider. But maybe a classic, something like Gladiator is always a really good classic film. Yeah, there's lots like that though that are really
what's
good.
The most memorable then for you? Like, is there one film that every time like you think about film, you think about that one movie?
I'm not sure. Maybe as a child, I watched. There was always a lot of like musicals and things on, so like Grease and stuff like this. Back in my childhood, that like you reminisce about when you get older and it like you see it on somewhere or something like that. Yeah. But something like Grease is probably something that's kind of memorable.
Well, it's a fun 80s. Movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I watched it a lot as well as a kid because my mother like would watch it non-stop. Yeah, actually.
Yeah, probably be the same actually.
What's your favorite band then, or music group, whatever artist?
As I think music tastes, a bit like film tastes, I guess, have changed as I've got a bit older. And I've started to appreciate some of the older music and things like this. But Oasis is probably for me like a classic, and a band that I've always really enjoyed listening to. So yeah.
All right, great. Well, apparently the chat has no questions as well. So, but you might as well give some shout outs to everyone you want, my friend.
Yeah, so firstly, thank you for having me on. Thank you for everyone who supports XL right now, because it means the most to us, because we've not prior to being LEC, not an org with a big fan base or anything like this, and I think we're slowly getting people to appreciate what we're all about, and seeing that appreciation is just absolutely key to our success and us driving forward. So thank you to everyone who supported XL and myself on this journey and continues to do so.
All right, so everyone that just tuned in, I'm sorry that we're closing off the show, but if you missed and you want to watch it, there will be a VOD tomorrow, so no worries. It will be everything on YouTube, and we're gonna see us next week around the same time on Tuesday for the next Puppets Dojo. So thank you very much. So everybody, thank you again for watching. I highly appreciate you taking the time to enjoy the show. I hope you're liking the Puppets Dojo, and if you like it, leave me a comment with feedback. Let me know what you're liking, what you're not liking, and also who you want to see here next. Again, you can check out my Patreon not only for extra content but as well to support the channel. And if you don't want to miss out the next episodes, make sure to subscribe to here to not miss the VOD or the Twitch channel, so you know when we're gonna going live next week on Tuesday. So, thank you again for watching and have fun with all these other videos. Bye bye.